Hey guys, today I want you to picture something unsettling, something quiet. You drift off to sleep, the room dark, and still your body relaxed, your breath slowing. Hours pass, but deep inside something begins to shift. A vessel narrows, a clot forms, a rhythm falters, and before the sun rises, a stroke has occurred and you never even knew it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop your city and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far this message reaches. Now listen carefully to see if you and your family members see these signs. The idea that strokes can strike while you sleep feels unfair. You're supposed to be resting, healing, recharging. And yet, every year, thousands of people wake up unable to speak, move one side of their body, or recognize the face in the mirror. These are known as wake-up strokes, and they're far more common than most people realize. But how is it possible to have something so devastating happen without even stirring? The answer lies in how strokes often behave, not like explosions, but like slow floods, especially ischemic strokes where a clot slowly obstructs blood flow. Symptoms can build quietly without pain while the body is in its most relaxed, least aware state sleep. You might not toss-turn or cry out, your breathing might not change, and in the silence of night, your brain starts losing oxygen one cell at a time. Some people wake up groggy and assume they just slept wrong. Their arm is numb, their face feels off. It's only when they try to speak, stand, or see clearly that the deeper truth becomes terrifyingly clear. The stroke didn't happen now, it happened hours ago. And that delay matters. Here's a surprising detail: some people experience vivid dreams or hallucinations before a stroke hits. Scientists don't fully understand why, but it may be the brain's desperate attempt to process abnormal signals while consciousness fades. By the time morning light hits the window, critical minutes and treatment options may already be gone. That's the cruel paradox of nighttime strokes. They often steal time before we even know time is being stolen. But understanding why they happen, how they creep in silently, can help us take steps to catch them earlier or prevent them altogether. It starts by realizing that even in your most peaceful moments, your brain never sleeps completely. And sometimes it's fighting a battle you can't feel. Your body has a rhythm, a pattern. Every night as you drift into deeper sleep, your heart rate slows and your blood pressure naturally dips. It's part of your body's built-in maintenance cycle, a chance to rest, repair, and prepare for a new day. But for some people, this gentle nighttime drop becomes a dangerous tipping point. This is called nocturnal hypotension, and while it's normal to some extent in vulnerable individuals, especially those with hardened arteries, narrowed vessels, or existing cardiovascular conditions, it can reduce blood flow to already compromised areas of the brain. If the supply dips too low, it opens the door to an ischemic stroke. Imagine a city block that already has weak power lines. During the day, electricity just barely reaches the homes. Now imagine the voltage drops slightly overnight. Suddenly the lights flicker out completely. That's what happens in certain areas of the brain during sleep. They don't get enough pressure to keep blood flowing through tight, damaged arteries, and a clot forms or a pre-existing blockage becomes critical. This effect is even more pronounced in people taking certain blood pressure medications. If dosed at night without adjustment, these meds can exaggerate the dip-pushing pressures too low for too long. It's not about stopping the medicine, it's about understanding how timing and dosage affect your brain's blood supply. And here's something most people never hear. Some patients wake up repeatedly between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. without knowing why, and later we discover they had a mini-stroke. These transient ischemic attacks, TIAs, don't always cause dramatic symptoms, but they can be the warning shots before a larger event. If you find yourself waking with numbness, tingling slurred thoughts, or even just a strange sense of confusion, don't ignore it. There's also a structural factor. As we age, the vessels inside our brain lose flexibility. They don't respond as quickly to pressure changes. This means that even a normal drop in blood pressure at night can have exaggerated effects in older adults. The vessels can't adapt fast enough and the brain suffers. And here's something strangely poetic. Your body, in trying to rest, may accidentally starve its own core. The very thing meant to protect your heart-lowering pressure can, in certain contexts, place your brain at risk. But knowledge is power, and understanding how your own circulatory system responds at night might help you prevent the kind of silent stroke that sneaks in while you sleep. You're lying still deep in sleep. Your breathing is steady until it's not. It stops. For 10 seconds, maybe 15. Then a sudden gasp, a choke, a snore. Then quiet again. You don't notice, but your brain does. Over and over, night after night, your oxygen dips below safe levels. And slowly, silently, this becomes one of the most overlooked stroke risks, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea isn't just about snoring. It's about repeated oxygen deprivation where your airway collapses or becomes blocked during sleep. Your body jolts itself awake, sometimes dozens of times an hour, to restart breathing. You never fully wake up, but the damage is done. Every pause in breath is a microcrisis. Every oxygen dip puts stress on your heart, your blood vessels, and most dangerously, your brain. When the brain senses low oxygen, it triggers a cascade of emergency responses. One of them is increased blood pressure, often surging in sharp, erratic bursts throughout the night. This back-and-forth low oxygen, high pressure weakens blood vessels and increases the risk for both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes. And here's where it gets alarming. Many people with sleep apnea have no idea they have it. They don't remember waking up. They just feel tired in the morning, foggy. Maybe they write it off as bad sleep stress or age. But behind that fatigue is a nightly assault on their brain's oxygen supply. Now here's the quirky part. Your tongue might be a clue. People with large tongues or recessed jaws are at higher risk, especially if they sleep on their backs. The weight of the tongue relaxes into the airway, cutting off breath. Even your sleeping position, your pillow, your neck angle can contribute to those dangerous nighttime drops in oxygen. There's another layer. Undiagnosed sleep apnea is linked to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat that can cause blood clots to form in the heart. Those clots can travel straight to the brain. Many patients who suffer strokes in their sleep later discover they had both conditions and neither had ever been treated. If you wake with a dry mouth, headaches, or feel unrested even after 8 hours of sleep, consider a sleep study. It's not just about feeling better. It's about protecting your brain from nightly oxygen sabotage. Because while your body tries to sleep untreated, sleep apnea makes every night a battlefield, and your brain, unfortunately, is the front line. You have a clock inside you, ticking quietly beneath your awareness. This circadian rhythm shapes your hormones, temperature, alertness, even your blood's tendency to clot. It's not random. Your biology knows time, and for reasons we're only beginning to understand, that timing seems to make the early morning hours the most dangerous for stroke. Right before dawn, your body starts waking up before your eyes even open. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to rise. Your heart rate climbs. Your blood vessels constrict slightly. Your platelets, tiny cells that help form clots, become more sticky. It's like your system is gearing up for the day. But in people with existing risk factors this morning, surge becomes a trap. That's why so many strokes occur between 6 a.m. and noon. For someone with a clogged artery or atrial fibrillation, that early morning spike in blood pressure and clotting potential can tip the balance. A clot that was sitting quietly all night suddenly dislodges and travels to the brain. Or a narrowing in a vessel crosses the threshold into full blockage. And here's what's especially troubling. If that clot forms or moves around 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., you're deep in sleep. You won't notice the numbness or confusion. You won't slur your words or miss your footing. You're unconscious, so by the time you wake, if you can still wake, it's already been hours. There's even emerging research showing that the genes regulating clotting proteins are more active at specific times of day. Think about that. Your body is literally more prone to clot based on the hour. Evolutionarily, it might have made sense. More activity in the day meant more injury risk, so faster clotting was helpful. But in modern life, with sedentary habits and chronic disease, that natural rhythm has become a liability. Here's a quirky fact. Astronauts on the International Space Station have altered circadian rhythms and show less variation in clotting behavior. They don't have the same stroke time peak as people on Earth. It shows how deeply time and gravity affect even our smallest functions. So what can you do? For those at risk, especially with high blood pressure or clotting disorders, some doctors now recommend taking certain medications at night to blunt that early morning surge. Not to flatten your rhythm entirely, but to keep it from turning dangerous. Because when your body's clock turns towards sunrise, your brain may already be dancing on the edge, and the stroke that finds you at 4 a.m. doesn't care how well you slept. It only cares what time it is. You blink awake. The alarm didn't go off, but something else did. Maybe it's your arm numb and limp. Maybe it's your mouth not quite closing right. You try to speak, but the words don't form. You look at your phone, but the numbers don't make sense. You sit up slowly, already suspecting the truth. This didn't just happen, it happened while you were sleeping. These are what we call wake-up strokes. You don't feel them occur, you just wake up to the aftermath. And they bring with them one particularly cruel challenge: uncertain timing. When exactly did the stroke begin? Was it 10 minutes ago, 4 hours, last night at midnight? This matters because many stroke treatments, especially clot-busting drugs like TPA, are time-sensitive. The window is typically 4.5 hours from symptom onset. But with wake-up strokes, we don't have a clear clock. And without knowing the start time, many patients become ineligible for these critical therapies simply because of the unknown. That doesn't mean you're out of options. Some hospitals now use advanced MRI techniques to assess brain tissue damage and identify patients who may still benefit from treatment even if the exact time is unclear. These tools are expanding hope. But they're not yet available everywhere. And this is why acting as soon as you notice symptoms is so important. Every minute still counts, even if the stroke technically happened hours before. Faster imaging, faster decisions, more possibilities. Here's something quirky and frankly haunting. Some people wake up feeling perfectly fine, go about their morning routine and only notice something's wrong when they look in the mirror. Their smile is crooked, or their eye isn't tracking. The brain's adaptation, especially in slow-developing strokes, can mask symptoms until your conscious mind finally catches up. There's also a small but growing awareness that smartwatches and wearable sleep trackers may eventually help detect stroke-like abnormalities during sleep. Changes in heart rate variability, oxygen saturation, or limb movement could one day trigger alerts. We're not there yet, but it's coming. Until then, here's your role. If you or someone you love wakes up with any new neurological symptom, don't wait. Don't brush it off as sleeping funny. Call immediately. Stroke centers have protocols for wake-up strokes, and early action still saves brain. Because time last night might be lost, but the time now is still yours to use. Now that you know why some strokes happen while you sleep, let's talk about what you can actually do while you're awake to reduce the risk. Because prevention doesn't begin at bedtime. It starts long before your head hits the pillow. The most important step is managing blood pressure. High blood pressure is the single most significant risk factor for both ischemic and hemorrhagic strokes, and it doesn't rest when you do. If your pressure is high during the day, it may spike or crash unpredictably at night. Regular monitoring medication if needed, and small adjustments like cutting salt and managing stress can make a world of difference. Next, think about your breathing. If you snore loudly, gasp in your sleep, or wake up tired despite full rest, talk to your doctor about sleep apnea testing. A simple overnight study can identify whether your brain is experiencing repeated oxygen dips, and a CPAP machine can change everything. It's not just about sleep, it's about preventing the slow, silent suffocation that leads to nighttime strokes. Consider when you take your medications. For some people, taking blood pressure medicine at night helps flatten the dangerous morning surge we discussed earlier. But don't change timing without your doctor's guidance. What works for one person can harm another. The key is individual rhythm-based care, a conversation worth having with your healthcare provider. Let's not forget your daily movement. Regular physical activity improves circulation, stabilizes blood sugar, reduces clotting factors, and promotes better sleep quality. You don't need to run marathons. A 30-minute walk each day can lower your stroke risk more than most realize. Movement trains your body to regulate itself even when you're at rest. Here's a quirky but effective nighttime tip: raise the head of your bed slightly. Just a few inches of elevation can improve circulation, reduce pressure in the brain, and aid breathing, especially in those with apnea or heart issues. It's subtle, but over time it adds up. Also, avoid heavy meals and alcohol too close to bedtime. They can increase blood pressure variability and interfere with sleep quality. Instead, focus on consistent sleep patterns. Going to bed and waking at the same time trains your internal clock, which may even reduce the early morning stroke risk we explored earlier. Finally, know your numbers: blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar. The more informed you are, the more proactive you can be. Stroke prevention isn't about fearing the night. It's about preparing for it while you're fully awake. Because once you sleep, your body takes over. And what you do today determines whether it's fighting uphill or resting in peace. Let's ease into stillness now. You've learned how a stroke can arrive while the world is quiet, how the most dangerous moments may be the ones you never feel. It's unsettling, yes, but not unchangeable. Because with the right awareness, the night doesn't have to be a threat. It can return to what it's meant to be: healing, restorative, peaceful. So take a moment, let your shoulders drop, let the air come in more gently now. Picture yourself in your bedroom. Everything is calm, your body is settled, your breath steady. But now there's intention behind the peace. You've checked your numbers, you've set your medications, you've made choices that protect your brain when your mind turns off. That's what this is really about: not fear, but quiet preparation. Maybe you'll talk to your doctor this week about sleep apnea. Maybe you'll start walking after dinner. Maybe you'll just pay more attention to the stories your body whispers in the early hours. All of that matters. All of that counts. And when you wake tomorrow clear and whole, I hope a part of you remembers this conversation, not to dwell on danger, but to feel the strength that comes from knowing what to look for, what to ask, what to notice. The brain is a miracle. It carries your memories, your voice, your sense of self. Protecting it, especially while you sleep, isn't paranoia. It's wisdom. So, as the lights dim, let that wisdom settle in. Let your chest rise and fall like the tide. Let the night return to being just that, a passage of time, nothing more. No hidden threats, no invisible enemies. Just sleep, deep and unbroken, and a brain fully at rest. Hope this video is useful for you.